All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Before we jump in, let's all take a moment to introduce ourselves. So feel free to drop a quick message in the chat. Let us know where you're tuning in from, if you're a founder yourself or working for a startup. We would love to get to know you all. Even feel free to throw in your LinkedIn so you can connect with fellow attendees here today. While you continue to introduce yourself, I will also take a moment to introduce myself. I am Hannah Jennings, and I'm a community organizer here at Tech in Motion. And I'm so excited to be the one to welcome you to today's webinar. For those who have been part of our community for a while now, you know that Tech in Motion was founded over a decade ago by Motion Recruitment, a staffing and recruiting firm. Our mission was simple: to bring together the tech community to connect, learn, innovate, and discuss the most pressing IT topics of the day. Today, we are diving into our fifth installment of our Startup to Success series, a series that gives you an exclusive behind-the-scenes look at the challenges, strategies, and successes involved in building a thriving tech company. From turning ideas into reality to scaling and overcoming obstacles along the way, we truly cover it all. We are thrilled to bring you an inspiring conversation with the dynamic duo behind Arlo Solutions, Lonye and Arlene. With Lonye's 10 plus years of service in the United States Air Force and over 16 years as a government contractor, combined with Arlene's decade of experience running small businesses and holding positions as financial analyst and business analyst at several Fortune 500 companies, they bring a wealth of knowledge and expertise to share with you today. Following today's event, you'll have the opportunity to ask your questions directly to our presenters, so be sure to stick around until that very end for live Q&A. Now, without further delay, I am thrilled to introduce you to our host for today, Anna Chaud. Anna is an entrepreneur, investor, and business advisor dedicated to helping other leaders thrive both personally and professionally. Her entrepreneurial journey began at Garden Bar and has led her to co-founding 50Pages, where she's on a mission to guide and inspire leaders to live in alignment with their values, purpose, and without regrets. So Anna, I will let you take it away from here.
Everybody, I wasn't sure if I was on or off, so welcome to our fireside chat. I'm here today with two incredible founders, Lonye and Arlene, who we'll meet in a moment, and we'll be together for an open and honest conversation about the wild and yet incredible journey of entrepreneurship. And our goal here today is going to be to share insights that resonate with you, the audience, especially those who are early stage entrepreneurs and founders. Because between the three of us, we've been in this world for so long, and we're so excited to have the opportunity to reflect on the lessons and the experiences that we gathered over the years. So we're going to be talking about the entrepreneurship, but we'll also be talking about scaling with intention and navigating the challenges in such a competitive market. So there's a lot of good stuff to come. So for those who don't know me, and I already told you, I've been in this world for almost 3 decades now, and I've always been surrounded by entrepreneurs, and it's been a passion of mine. So without further ado, I am going to introduce you to our guests today. So first, please meet Lonye Ford. She is the CEO and co-founder of Arlo Solutions. She's got over 15 years of experience in security, monitoring, detecting, analyzing, protecting systems from threats and vulnerabilities. And she's a trusted advisor to C-suite leaders. Lonye is also a motivational speaker, a mentor, and a proud Air Force veteran, and she's passionate about inspiring the next generation with her story. Needless to say, she's got some incredible achievements, which I will mention because they're important. 2019 recipient of the Intercon Top 50 Tech Visionaries Award, and 2018 recipient of the DC Women's Business Center Veteran Women-Owned Business of the Year Award. So you're in for a treat. And then Arlene Wube, I think is how I pronounce the last name, is the co-founder, president, and CEO of. She is the powerhouse that brings over a decade of experience leading small businesses and working in the tech industry. A graduate of Howard University, she has a strong background in marketing, finance, and information systems from her time working at Fortune 500 companies. Arlene is also deeply committed to giving back, and she serves on various nonprofit boards and is continually championing women to pursue their own success. So, welcome to the stage, Lonye and Arlene. I am so excited to talk to the two of you today.
Absolutely, Anna. We are excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you. How are you two? How are you, Arlene? Good?
Great, great. Happy to be here. Happy to share our story.
Awesome. Awesome. So I guess the biggest thing right now is I'd like to find out, how did you two meet and came together to start Arlo?
Well, we actually met over a lemon drop martini. I joke, but it's serious. You never know what really is going to spark, innovation. But the unique thing about Arlene and I is Arlene and I are business partners turned friends. I always say it's my business partner, soulmate. But we actually met through my friend, Arlene's husband, Taz. We talked about kind of my Air Force career, and just coming up, I've always been into entrepreneurship. So even in the Air Force, I was still having, entrepreneurship ventures. And one of them was marketing, did promotions in the DC area. So I partnered with Arlene's husband, Taz, and we were doing party promotions. And it's funny because I was partnered with quite a few different promoters in the area. The reason I like to partner with Taz is he would come and he would have all these spreadsheets. He would have data, and that was very unique in the club environment. So I ended up just navigating to partnering with him. And he would say, you just need to meet my wife. And when I finally met his wife, I realized I had been working with her all along. That's where all
That's amazing.
Preparation came from. Yeah.
That's incredible. So, okay. So then you two met, and what kind of gap in the market did you see to actually come up with the inception of Arlo? How was that?
I mean, we both had a passion for supporting the government. Lonye mentioned, she supported the Air Force. I supported the government through working with Northrop Grumman, information technology. So that's where my world of that industry opened up, and I loved it. And I realized, wow, everything that we do for the commercial world, we can bring over to this sector. And my husband knew that. And then he learned that from her, and he brought it all together. And I like, our first minute was, what do you do? What are you amazing at? Because I could literally package this. We could make it happen. And so when she said cyber, I'm like, wow, that's amazing. That's like the hottest thing in the market. It's not going to be easy. Exactly. But that's really where that passion just really stemmed from, right there.
Yeah. And it's about where do you want to make your money? We both wanted to be entrepreneurs. And I joke that I'm a patriot, but I really am. Because I've supported the Department of Defense pretty much all of my adult career. Not only was I in the Air Force, then I have been a government employee, then I've been a government contractor. When we worked, I was in the Pentagon. So supporting, that's the type of support we wanted to do when we worked together to build a company around it.
Okay, I love this. So I'm going to go off track a little bit on our things here, because I'm so excited, and I'm sure everybody's going to love what I'm doing here, because you guys, we have a list here, but this is too exciting. So, okay. So Lonye, you were working for the government doing this, and you're like, okay, I'm going to become an entrepreneur. Arlene, you're working for Fortune 500, and you said, okay, now we're going to go get together and do a startup, correct? Okay, awesome. This is amazing. You have the idea. How did you establish credibility as a new player coming into, first of all, it's a highly competitive market industry, right? You're coming in. How did you come off the gate and say, let's do this? And how did you establish that credibility?
Yeah, we knew from the beginning that the term past performance and your company's past performance was truly our personal past performance. Mm-hmm. That's what we relied on. Like, what impact have we left all the way up to today. What did we were great at? What were we not great at? And really pull from that. Let's not make the same mistakes, and let's bring in, the best of us. Our sweat equity, really pulling on that. And I think that's what built our portfolio. We were able to go back to others that we either worked for or people who knew us, and they knew one thing we share is commitment to, our passion and our delivery, doing what we say we're going to do. And that really carried on. I mean, till today, because that model still exists.
Yeah. I think you making sure that you as an individual are always performing at your best. It doesn't have anything to do with what company you're associated with, if you own a company, because our reputation preceded itself. Even if they didn't know that we were in this field, they knew whether we were doing club promotions, Fortune 500, they know the type of intensity and work ethic that we have. And we are both the type of people, the get her done people, right? If the door is closed, we're going through the window, right? If the window's locked, we're climbing on a roof, right? So that's right. That is our personality type collectively. And that preceded itself. So I think, and then, to be honest, partnerships we do. And when we first started, we thought that we could go into a room and say, hey, I'm Lonye and Arlene, give me a contract. And they're like, actually, who are you? And you don't have any past performance. And so we realized one thing is that we had to research. This takes a lot of research. In the beginning, research. We had to research, what is it that clients are looking for? If I go to you as an agency, I need to understand, what are your pain points, right? And then when I go to the client, I can say, hey, client, we realize that your pain point is this. And we look to see that this proposal was coming out and Arlo can, fulfill this need. So that gave us credibility, because it says, number one, you researched me, you understand what my needs are, and then you actually put a solution in place. So I think that also provides credibility.
That's great. I love to hear that. And also, I think we had talked a little bit about in the past, which was how much effort you two put into intentionally creating a good team and surrounding yourselves with the people who are doing what you need them to do, and putting the right people in the right seats. Can you tell me a little bit more about how you made that happen, and what was it like?
Yeah, we realized early on how important it is to reinvest in the company. And when we maxed out what we could do for sweat equity, right, and how we could perform, we invested in A players. It started off when we were small, before revenue was investing in 1099s, vendors who could support us. And then as the company grew, we invested in either some vendors actually became full-time employees working with us today, or investing with that mix of A players, W-2 employees.
Mm-hmm. Oh, good. That's great. So you kind of started. So I guess one of the biggest questions I'm sure everybody's going to have in the audience, it's how did you fund? How did you fund the startup? Can you tell us a little bit about your journey from, bootstrapping days until today?
Yeah. Well, one, I would say that, bootstrap, we really funded with our sweat equity. We spent our first few years, 2 years, just really building and learning and using resources. We used a lot of free resources that the SBA office offered, that the Apex office offered. Of course, we Googled, it was a lot of research. And though we had been on the tech side and the client side, we had not really been on the business side of this. So we really had to teach ourselves that. So when I say funding, to me, that's where equity to me is a part of funding. Financially, we couldn't get any money. Right. So we went out and we tried to get all these loans and it didn't work because, again, we were poor when we started. Right. And so we heard that when you start and you get a government contract, that you will be able to take this contract that's been signed. You would go to the bank and say, hey, bank, I have this contract that we won. Could you fund us so that we can pay our payroll? And that just wasn't the case, because guess what? The bank wants 2 years of tax return, or the social report 2 years ago, right? So, and so that really didn't work for us. So, but we didn't let it stop us. So let's say that we didn't let us stop us. We continued to move forward, and then we won our first one of our first contracts where we had to pay payroll. And that's when it got real.
Yeah, because when we won the contract, I remember Lonye saying we were celebrating. I mean, maybe 10 minutes into it, and then it's like, oh my God, there's so much now next. And she's like, no, let's celebrate. And I'm like, no, the next is about to be really hard, which was the Capitol.
Yeah.
Right. And so Lonye will tell you that story too, how the partnerships she mentioned that were critical for the company that we were developing, and that betting on ourselves, investing on ourselves early on now, right, paid off.
Absolutely. And so we went into because we couldn't get the funding. We tried to do a lot of unique funding options. And we ended up finding a accountant. We were looking for an accountant for a while, but I said we didn't have any money, so even accountants didn't want to take us on. So we found this accounting company. I think Arlene met with them, and they must have been motivated by her. And so she decided to take us on as a client. And I mean, it was nominal. We could afford to pay like $500, because imagine, we were so confident in what we were doing. We were getting systems, accountants. We didn't have any work. We didn't have any. We just knew that once we got the work that we needed this. But that's how confident we were in our abilities. But other people are like, okay, you're trying to build all this thing and you don't have any work or any clients. We're like, we're going to get it. So we had an accountant. We had just gotten her. I think she had been on less than a month when we won this contract. And this was a $4 million contract. And so for us to cover, payroll, you're talking about, I think we needed like either $30,000.
We needed $40,000 before you build a client, right? So you have to have this capital ready to go, but you don't necessarily know when you're actually going to win. And so anyway, that went
a balancing act.
Yeah, we called it the winner problem.
Yeah,
right? Like now we have these things, and thankfully, the support of our accountant, she invested and put that money in, set up our general ledger, put the money in our account, covered the payroll.
We had known her for maybe 1 month.
Oh,
and she invested in us in that way. No, and I don't even mean investment. It wasn't like a percentage. She was just like, I have you.
Until you get it back, and set up, taught us about factoring on an invoice, introduced us to a company. By the time the next second payroll of that month came, we were able to give her money back, set it up, and have the whole thing running. But it was because of her and investing in bringing in, finding that talent early on that saved us. I mean, it was critical.
Yes. And then we maintained it through factoring. So getting funding and traditional funding in spaces sometimes is difficult, but there's some unique funding options out there. So even look at, factoring, where you're borrowing against your invoices. So that's a methodology for people to use as well. We used factoring for quite some time. It really worked well for us. And then now, just to go back to that same person who came in as our accountant, she was our first CFO.
She is our CFO.
She retired from her company and she came on as a CFO. So the power in relationships and partnerships, like, we can't overstate that.
Okay. So much to unpack here. Okay. First, obviously, the key hire that you had, the accountant, who most people actually, as we know, and we discussed this in the past, a lot of times early or young, early stage founders postpone those, right? They postpone the hires, and you had this vision of, let's put somebody who's strong in that position, and that's amazing. So your first contract, you won. Let's do the winner, and we had to put in that amount. Yes, amazing. But this is what I think is amazing about the story, is that a lot of young founders think that unless they have some investment from outside the world, or if they go to Shark Tank and get Mark Cuban to invest, they can't do something, right? So what you're showing right now is really not that. Is like, there are other ways for people who cannot get outside investors to be able to fund. Knowing the different opportunities out there. I mean, I think that is brilliant. I didn't know that. I actually learned, as you guys, I do too, are talking to me. So there was no outside investment, meaning investors. And did you ever go through a round of funding, or no?
No, we did not. We didn't go through, and it's a hard, slow start. right? So because your investment truly is that sweat equity. Arlene and I didn't pay ourselves for 5 years.
Okay.
So it just depends on, so it's not for the faint of heart. Everything that came up, we paid, we just split it. And for us, the people were so important. It wasn't like we didn't make any money. It's just that we took every single dollar that we had and we hired the right people, because in our mind, again, we knew that we were going to be successful. In order for us to be successful, you have to have the right people. And we needed senior level people. Why would we hire cheap junior people who's not going to be able to lead in their area? If I want an HR director, I want them to understand how to lead us. So we spent all of our money in very strategic hires. And people don't know in the company, most people were making more than us. Even after we paid ourselves, I think the first was like $50,000. Like our employees were making more than us.
And I think that we started that passion, like, and made it our hobby. We said, okay, we have our day jobs. We're still, right, have to pay our bills. That doesn't stop. We still have our kids and still have to move on. 5 o'clock on, this is our hobby every day. I mean, through 4 in the morning. And we just have fun with it too, because we knew the money wasn't coming anytime soon.
But so we enjoy it.
We
still do that to this day.
Yeah, like once we have that problem and we finally figured it out, that was the joy the first 5 years until it's like, okay, now we have to make money.
Yeah, we need a couple dollars now, but
but it's that passion that drives those years.
I don't even know. I'm a little speechless right now because it's so, first of all, so inspirational. I'm in awe. Your mothers, you had a day job. You did this, just out of passion, and you made it happen. What I'm very curious though, first of all, let me just say, as a business advisor and executive coach, I think one of the hardest things I have with my clients is understanding the importance of building a star team, right?
Yeah.
And you knew this right off the bat.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, one of the difficulties from a founder who wants to become a CEO is understanding how to build that team, but most importantly, what are the positions that they need to fill? How did you two know what were the key hires for that leadership team? I think that's the most important question that a lot of founders have is who do I hire? Do I hire a COO? Do I hire a CFO? How did you know who you needed to complete that C-suite?
I have to be honest. Arlene and I went a lot on intuition. Arlene and I, we built the company. So we did every single role within the company. Once we saw that it was a gap, we filled that role. And the benefit to, I always say I met my partner soulmate. And it's because we have a lot of similarities, but we have a lot of differences that we play off of. So Arlene handles kind of one half of the company. I handled the other, which means she did all the work in one half of the company. I did all the work in the other half. So she knew intimately what we needed for benefits and HR and finance. And my focus was on I needed to go and, hunt for the work. I had to go and do that. And I also did the getting the people, the hiring. So we understood when we were at our capacity, right? It was like, okay, we've done this for so long. And we also understood the importance of first starting with an accountant. You have to count your dollars, because you can look up in 2 months and realize you didn't even make any money last week. And actually, I paid you for the work, right? So making sure that you keep track of your money is of ultimate importance. And just because you have a skill set, just because I know cyber doesn't mean I'm an entrepreneur. So the folks that are out there going to build business based because they have a specific niche, that niche is not the same thing as entrepreneurship. Those are two different things. You can have a skill set and still not be able to build a business. So think about that when you're partnering, whether you partner with a partner or whether you're bringing in strategic hire.
That's great. I love that. This is really good. And then you mentioned a little bit just a while ago about the strategic partnerships that you had, and so I'm interested in how do you identify and actually cultivate these strategic partnerships that are going to drive the growth of the company?
I would say for us, that's probably one of our strongest area is partnership in general. Let's say outside of Arlo is how even when we met, it was based off partnership. So we're very just partner friendly people in general. So I think that's a mind frame. One, I'll say that, because a lot of people don't want to, I don't want to say it's greed, but they get scared of splitting, right? We don't mind splitting and breaking it down, because we feel like together we can move a lot faster if everyone plays their role. So from we went to I think I want to say it was a DC event. And it was talking about breaking into the industry, and a lot of small business, they were out there just complaining. No one will talk to us on small business. I don't have past performance. I mean, it was a lot of complaints. So the first thing, Arlene and I was like, okay, we're not going over there with them, because evidently they're not winning. And then the second part was, what's the solution around this? Right? What is the solution around that? People will not speak to you. Government contractors will not speak to you. What is the solution? Okay, if you can't beat them, join them. So we did very early on. We partnered with large companies very early on. We figured out, how do we, if we don't have the past performance, and which is understandable, to go into a place and say, hey, I can do this mission critical work, but I can't show you how I've done it in the past. So partnership is important from that perspective. You do want sometimes to bring in a company that can help give you some validity. And so when we went to partner, we looked at clients the same way that we looked at large businesses and partners. We went to pitch to them as well. And when you're thinking about partnership, these people are not your cousins. They're not your family. You have to make it a win-win. If I'm going to partner with you, what am I bringing to you? I can say, hey, Deloitte, I'm great, partner with me, but everyone is saying that. Or I can say, hey, Deloitte, I have this contract and I have this client and I have the work already. You come and we pitch together, and that's how a lot of how we did our partnerships.
Right.
We bring work to the table. You have to.
That's how we started the company, right? It's a critical part of our business model today, and it's literally how we entered the market, the federal market space. We partner with people to be able to get sponsorships to enter the door. We partner with people to be able to, get into different programs. And then today it comes full circle. Now we have all of the credentials to be a prime. So that we can be primes to subs, and we do that too. So now it's the vice versa situation.
And you partner with your clients, right? So it's the same thing when we say we out there said, this is your gap and here's the solution. We're partnering with it. Some of our clients are the same clients that we've had for over 8 years. They go to an agency and they transfer to an agency. They bring us with them because we're partnering with them. We partner with our employees, right? All of this is about partnership. No one has to do anything. It's best to say what's a win-win for all of us here. So we're very partner friendly just across the board in every way that you can think of.
And it's good.
That's amazing.
Partners, right? And doing what you say you're going to do.
What you say you're going to do.
Right. And then, so it's not easy. So, but you have to do what you say you're going to do, live by that model. And I think those things, and have some trust in your intuition, and it works out.
Because that's what sometimes they'll ask you, a partner, what is it that you want? Our CFO told us this, and we start saying, just for you to do what you say you're going to do. If we have something on this agreement, follow through with it. And if you are a partner to someone, just remember that, because your reputation is going to precede itself. If you have a partnership, do your part. Do what you say you're going to do.
I love, just because the way you're replying or answering these questions, it shows so much where your core values are, the integrity, the commitment to excellence, the hard work. I mean, everything is coming through. So I don't have to ask about core values, because they're very, very obvious right there. So thank you for that. But I do have a question. It's like, you mentioned so many great things, and I know you're going to pull this together, which is, how can small businesses differentiate in such a crowded market, right? Because that's what you are. How do you feel like, how do you think you were able to differentiate, other than that, you mentioned several things, but are any other things that you'd consider?
I would say knowledge, skills, and ability. I always lean on that, because you have to have a level of expertise. When you're a small business and you're going out, whether you're pitching and you're making partnerships, you really have to know what you're talking about. You really have to be able to communicate, because in many cases, you don't have another opportunity to get in front of people. You have to be overly prepared. I mean, overly prepared. The way we prepare for everything is the way we prepare for anything. It's like we literally prepare. We're doing pre-briefs. We're practicing with one another. So when we get into a space with someone, there's not a lot of issues because we've really thought things through. And that comes across when you are a small business and you're getting in front of a client. They want to feel that I can trust you, and they want to feel that you're going to be prepared to support them when you come on contract. So I think that's one area. I also think that, today what will set a lot of folks apart, is really making sure that you integrate, technology.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot more options to help you show up better and to help you scale as a small business. There's a lot more options from a technology standpoint. And those things do differentiate you, right? Integrating AI when you write into your proposals, those type of things. It helps you move faster. One thing that's really good about a small business is you're lean. It's some good and some bad, right? Like you can have some issues, but one good thing is that you are lean, so you can pivot, really quickly. You don't have a lot of bureaucracy when it comes to like creating solutions. You can really develop like you want. And a small business has that ability to do that, where some of the largest don't necessarily have that because of things like, bureaucracy. So there's definitely some benefits to being small from being lean and agile. And then the team.
Mm-hmm.
So when you are small and you try to show up as everything, even though it's cool for you to do on the background, but if I'm showing up as every single thing in the company, how much trust is the client going to have? Okay, Lonye, you the client, you do a BD, you writing proposals, and you're doing a cybersecurity work. So when you take your time to build a team, and you're showing up with your client, but I have these experts with me, that develops a level of trust. And so I think that's also a differentiator that small business sometimes don't want to pour money into their company, into the people. And I think that's the utmost important.
And I think when it was just even Lonye and I, from the first few years, we always made it a pact, like, let's prepare to show up big. Like, how do the big show up? What do they come to the table with? And that was really important for us, having the collateral that they have and being prepared like they do, and hiring that, to your point, the team as we grew. I think that was important. And even from like the beginning, having the compensation package that a big would have, and really investing in that so that we can pull from the same market as a Deloitte, a Booz, a Fortune 500, right? But we have to be able to prepare and provide those same benefits. And that was critical for us from day one.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I think you brought so much to this conversation. I know there's going to be a lot of great questions coming. But I also want to talk a little bit, and then we're going to talk more about, when the questions come, about all these critical decisions that you made early on, betting that you would pay off later. I know we talked about hiring. I know you talked about, accountants and all that, but is there anything you can think of there was just like critical decisions they had to make that you were like, they were very risky, but you're like, that's okay, we're going to jump in? Anything you can think of?
I think our client base, when we first started, unfortunately, people sometimes want to pigeon women into specific industries. And so when we first started in government contracting, we did get a lot of offers to do like small contracts and administrative support contracts. And we like, no, we're in cyber, right? We want the big contract. And we really felt like, and they would do simple acquisitions, and that's contracts that's 150 or something and below. So that's what people would bring to us. And I think for us, we knew that we didn't want that. And we didn't even want people to think of us like that. So could we have taken that quick money that they offered? Definitely. But one, we felt like it takes me as much work to write to a proposal for $150,000 that it would take me to write for $4 million. And I'm not going to psych myself out to feel that that's what I want. So I think it was very pivotal for us to really hold true to the type of work that we wanted. And it was a tough industry to get in. Right now, we know that only 0.5% of Black women or women of color are in government contracting. 0.5, not 1% less. We didn't know that now, and I think that helped us maintain the lead. But you know, we still, you know, I think we just were really focused on working in the Department of Defense, and we did not change that outlook as hard as it was. We said, okay, we have to pivot and do some work in DC until we got our facility clearances and those type of things. But we really stayed focused on working in the department, and that has provided us a lot of longevity. And even in the space now that we're in with this administration, our contracts, because they are kind of mission critical, when we took our time to get into those contracts, we really have a solid footprint there. So that has benefited us in the long run.
And we knew that this journey wasn't going to be easy. So in the first year, we spent a whole year developing our business plan. And we thought we had it out to 2 years that we would start to make profit. It was double that, but it's okay, right? We were able to pivot in between, but we knew the journey. We kind of could have foresight on the obstacles of what we didn't have and how we need to do micro steps to get there. And so I think that was really critical to stay on a path. And writing it out and being able to look at it every day to just see, did I push anything forward? And you have those weeks where you don't, and you stumble, but then you just go back and can literally go to something and really like kind of have that storybook, right, throughout the way.
It's amazing. And how can we not talk about this, right? Women, minority, 0.5% in government contracts. I mean, women, I'm from Latin America. I know how that is. And it's so hard to break into the business world. And so I think that how can we not end this conversation by what kind of advice you would give to women and minorities that want to break into the entrepreneurship world? Because I know that's one that's out there.
I think a lot of what we said, you know, knowledge, skills, and ability, and being prepared. We had some tough starts, to be honest, in this industry because we were women for many different reasons. One, because of the tech space that we were in, and the climate was a little different. So we didn't lean into it. You know, to be honest, I always say we're entrepreneurs and not activists. We worked around it. We'd even had to, when we started, some men would not even talk to us. I was going to meetings, they wouldn't give me eye contact. You know, it was crazy. And I could have fought back, how dare you? But what I did was go get Arlene's husband. It was like, actually, come to this meeting with me, sir. You know, and once you move on in there, then, you know, I'll do the talking. And it's funny, but it's real. That really is what happened. We would say, okay, if you feel more comfortable with a man in the room, okay, let me go rent a guy, you know, whatever it takes. And that was just our mantra. We did what we had to do to get to the client and to get to a solution. We didn't take it personal. And we knew that we had to show up and show out every opportunity that we have. We had to constantly win. You're only as good as your last win, right? And I think that's for all founders, not just women founders, is you have to be prepared and you have to do what you say, because a lot of your clients will be repeat clients and a lot of your clients will do a lot of word of mouth. So every time you show up, you have to continue to perform.
I agree. And I think that anticipate the obstacles, right? That's going to happen. So like, don't get shocked. Things are going to come up. And I think the big thing too is like complaints are not a solution. So you've got a time where people care and then it's like, okay, what's next? You know? So I think that, you know, just doing it and knowing that it's going to be hard. We fail, we keep going, complain little, solution more. And I think that, you know, hearing our story too, everybody's path is different. Yeah. So bootstrapping could be fun and it could be a great thing and you can make it happen, or, you know, whatever your path is, but just stick to it.
And you really have to have mental toughness, you know, in this space. A lot of what's going to make you successful is you. I mean, we could say all the amazing things about partnerships and this, but we're successful because of Arlo, like Arlene and Lonye, just to be honest. And if we were not successful, it would be because of Arlene and Lonye. We take accountability both ways. And so I think as, you know, as a woman, realize you are actually amazing. You bring life into the world, right? You navigate your home, your kids, you're the program manager in your house, you know, all this skill set. You're dealing with so much and so much pressure. Don't minimize that. Those are the same things that you do in the workspace. Those are the same things you do from a leadership perspective. So you're already coming in with that experience. And so I think living in that type of confident space is going to be very important, because you really do have to have a lot of self-awareness, self-esteem, and confidence in this space.
Amazing. Well, I am in awe, honestly. Thank you. I am inspired. I'm sure everybody's inspired by your story. And I know we're going to have a lot coming from the audience as well. So, Hannah.
And Anna, before you leave, first, thank you. And we are in awe of you. So it's not as if Anna is just hosting. Let me tell you.
Seriously, no, this was an honor.
So thank you. And you are amazing. So
you're sweet. Thank you very much. Yes.
Yes. Thank you all. That was such an inspiring conversation with such tangible takeaways. So if you want to revisit this, a recording of today's session will be sent out via email. And now we're going to open up the Q&A room. So you'll have the chance to pick the brains of Anna, Lonye, and Arlene. In just a moment, you'll see a live Q&A box pop up on your screen. So feel free to hop in there and we'll go through some of your questions. Thank you all so much for joining, and we look forward to seeing you next time, and hopefully in just a second in the breakout room.